Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. We do have a little bit of a tight schedule this morning. How the virtual poster session is going to work: each presenter has 5 minutes to present their poster, and then we'll have 5 minutes for questions. In the chat, or if you've joined and you don't see it in the chat, if you go to our conference webpage, there is a link for the poster sessions. So all of the titles, descriptions, presenters are listed on there, as well as a copy of their poster. And our first presenter for this morning is Valerie Bird-Fort from the University of South Carolina School of Information Science.
Good morning. So do I go ahead and share my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And I just go ahead and get started, right?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. Let's see, here we are. All right, thank you. Good morning. I am Valerie Bird-Fort, and I'm an instructor at the University of South Carolina at the School of Information Science. I teach children's literature and children's materials. My office is located at the South Carolina Center for Community Literacy, which is the home of Cocky's Reading Express, and I'm the coordinator for Cocky's Reading Express. I'm proud to be one of 6 moderators, facilitators for Project Ready SC, and that's what my poster is about, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of information about that. Because of our mutual interest in equity and quality professional development and continuing education, my colleagues at the South Carolina Center for Community Literacy, Dr. Nicole Cook, who is the Augusta Baker Endowed Chair for Childhood Literacy, and folks from the South Carolina State Library have collaborated to start a learning cohort to go through the Project Ready curriculum together. Project Ready, if you do not already know, is a curriculum that was created at the University of North Carolina and funded by an IMLS grant. The project, or the Ready in Project Ready, stands for Reimagining Equity and Access for Diverse Youth, something we all are focused on doing. Project Ready is designed to be used in conjunction with live meetings when possible. Our live meetings are via Zoom, and group discussions. The course provides professional development focused on concepts related to racial equity with a focus on services to Black, Indigenous, and youth of color. Our first meeting of Project Ready was about 2 weeks ago. Participants applied to be a part of our cohort, and we have folks who are school librarians, youth services staff at public libraries, and even someone from the solicitor's office in this first cohort. We meet once a month for about an hour each time, and we are going through the Project Ready curriculum together from the University of North Carolina. We meet through Zoom, and we have asynchronous discussions using Discord. As an added bonus, our participants will earn continuing education credits at the end of the course, and it'll end in mid-April. So each month we will meet until mid-April, and we are already planning to have future cohorts. So I encourage you, if this sounds interesting to you and maybe something you would like to be a part of, to stay tuned to the SCLA and SCASL listservs, and then also on the State Library and the South Carolina Center for Community Literacy's social networking pages. We'll share more information about Project Ready when we're ready to start a new cohort. You can also reach out to me, Valerie Bird-Fort, or Dr. Liz Hartnett, or Caroline Smith from the State Library for more information, and all of those contact emails are on the bottom of my poster. Also, if you want to start your own cohort, everything you need to do that is freely available on the Project Ready website from the University of North Carolina. In fact, Charleston County School District and Charleston County Public Libraries have a cohort of their own, and we're actually collaborating to have a guest speaker in December. I encourage you to explore Project Ready, whether you decide to apply for the next Project Ready SC cohort, start your own cohort, or even go through the curriculum independently. You will be better for it. It's an excellent program and just professional development to go through. So I look forward to your questions. This poster has links for everything, but I'm actually not sure if you'll be able to click on links going to the poster from the conference website. So I will put the links to this information in the chat so that you have it. But this is the Project Ready website from North Carolina, and then I've got links to all of our websites at the State Library and the South Carolina Center for Community Literacy as well. And then my email address, along with 2 of my colleagues, are on the poster. So if you have any questions, I'm very happy to answer them. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can see the chat, and I'll turn my camera on. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer them. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I will put links to, like I said, to Project Ready from North Carolina so that you can start your own cohort if you are interested in doing that. Or like I said, we will have more cohorts in the future. Right now, we're just going through the first one. So, you know, the next ones will be even better, although this one is really great. So thank you.
Okay, seeing no more questions, we're going to go ahead and go to the next poster. And our next presenter is Laura Collins from the Lexington County Public Library System.
Sorry, having a little bit of technical difficulty. Getting it ready. Okay, hi. My name is Laura Collins, and I am a library assistant with the Lexington County Public Library System, and I am a recent MLIS graduate from the University of South Carolina. And this is my poster, Making a Place at the Table, a guide for small, rural, and suburban libraries. This poster kind of started from a realization as I was going through the MLIS program that I could very easily find an abundance of materials about the importance of multilingual collections and services in public libraries and the positive impact that has on communities. But I was having a lot of trouble finding any resources about how to plan for and implement those collections and services, especially in smaller libraries. And I realized that part of that was because historically speaking, large cities have had more diverse populations. And so they have been able to introduce multilingual collections and services into their libraries with more ease. So let's say a city has more immigrants from a specific region of the world that speak a specific language. They can be like, oh, we know we need to bring in more materials with this language or specialized services. But small libraries, especially in these rural and suburban communities, they have a couple of disadvantages. There's usually a lack of funding, a lack of space, smaller staffs, and especially in predominantly white communities, a fear of offending the community that they are trying to serve. So it's kind of we know that there are people we want to make welcome into our libraries and have them use our libraries, but we don't know how to go about that. So like I said, I did find a whole bunch of research on the importance of multilingual collections. One particular researcher pointed out that multilingual collections in public libraries are beneficial to the pre-existing community in accepting the differences of new neighbors, and that the community is changing racially and diversely. And it also increases their knowledge of the world and around them. So the Reference User Services Association put out guidelines in 2007 about multilingual collections and services and how they should never be seen as additional or extra. They need to be part of the library's integral collection, integral services. And basically, they also learned that communication was incredibly important, because if you were to make a collection of, let's say, French language materials, and you were getting all these children's books and they weren't getting touched, and you were like, well, why aren't they getting touched? And it's because they actually needed more materials for adults rather than children. So communication is incredibly important if you're going to create a multilingual collection. And finding community partners and conducting a thorough needs analysis are all going to make having a successful multilingual collection and services in a public library. Determining needs, if you listen when you have people come up and be like, hey, do you have books in such and such language? And if you don't, just make a note. You can find this as also useful if people keep asking, hey, do you have a public notary or anything like that? Just kind of, it helps you get a better idea of what your community needs. I also highly recommend surveys, interviews, and focus groups, and finding community partners. And you can find those community partners in places such as the ESL departments of your school district. And also the places where people are already gathering. This can be religious places or Asian and Hispanic markets, just anywhere that people are already gathering, and you can find leaders of those communities who will have the most knowledge of what their community needs and how to benefit them in the long run. So at the end of the poster, I have a lot of resources, some from ALA and other places, on how to basically go about evaluating and some success stories, and how to go about, sorry, trying to find, a little nervous, basically just trying to find ways to help people. Collection development resources. Again, the 2007 guidelines for the development and promotion of multilingual collections and services, as well as the Association for Library Collections and Technical Services Foreign Book Dealers Directory. And you'll be able to find books from around the world and in various languages that you can add to your collection. Grants. Again, most of these come from ALA, but there are a couple of others that are available that you can use to launch those collections and services however you need, if that's more books or other materials, and or if you need to bring in someone special to come and help evaluate or host a program, that sort of thing. And also, I highly recommend looking at ALA affiliate groups when you are looking at starting a new multilingual collection, especially because these groups usually have their own awards and for books, especially in children's literature. So even if you are trying to work to include more books in different languages, you can also focus on your English language collections and making sure that the diverse world is represented and harmful stereotypes are avoided. And that is it. I will go ahead and start video. So if anybody has any questions, they are welcome to ask. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I also have a website with more resources and information that I realized a little too late that I forgot to add that into the poster, but I will post it in the chat in just a minute.
And Valerie and Laura, the links that you put in the chat, I'll put on the webpage as well. So everyone has access to those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, seeing no questions, we're going to go ahead and go on to our next poster. Our next presenter is Jonathan Guerin from Coker University.
All righty, get this shared here. Can we see it? We good?
I don't see
Oh,
it yet.
no. Hold on just a second. We're good now.
Yeah, we see it now.
Okay, good. Excellent. There we go. Forgot to press a button, which is great. It's fantastic. So I'm Jonathan Guerin from Coker University. I'm the instruction and outreach librarian there. And so the title of this poster is Virtual Outreach, Maintaining Community Engagement During COVID-19. So mostly I just wanted to kind of highlight a few of the different ways that we maintained engagement with not only our campus community, but also our community partners. Coker University serves as the main library for the Governor's School of Science and Mathematics, as well as Hartsville High School IB program, which is their advanced education program. So we had to not only juggle, working with our campus community, but also with those communities as well, and keeping engagement going and serving their needs as well as serving our own. So mostly we focused on social media communications and also email communications on campus, email communications with our community partners. We were able to actually start really kind of focusing and getting a little bit deeper into our embedded librarianship program, which has always been a little difficult to kind of get kickstarted here. But when everything went virtual, it made it very easy to get it kickstarted. So that was very nice. And we were also able to incorporate a few new technologies in terms of our video tutorials and the way we utilize those and help with engagement with those. Since we couldn't do a lot of our stuff face-to-face, really wanted to make sure that any of the tutorials that we were doing, any of the instruction we were doing online, that there was a high level of engagement and interaction with the students, which is something our faculty really wanted to push, which was really nice when we were sitting down and speaking with them. So on the right side of the poster, you see a lot of different software that we used. We have video recording systems. Camtasia is the main one we use in-house. Once I had to go to my house instead of my library house, I had to switch to Screencast-O-Matic, which is a free service software. It's very user-friendly, very easy to use. If you have used it before to make videos, highly recommend using that service. You do only get a 15-minute limit unless you want to pay for an upgrade on that, but 15 minutes usually pretty good for me. Although I am normally long-winded, normally as long as I have a nice a nice framework to work within, I can usually keep myself reined in a little bit. So I actually like using that a little more than Camtasia for the most part. Campus communication, we utilized a campus-wide email service that we have here that was recently started up by our communication and marketing department. It's Cobra announcements, which is basically just an email digest that goes out to the entire campus community every morning. So you can just send like a little bite size, I think it's about 1,000 character limit message. You can put links in there. And so when we had to switch off campus, that was really great to utilize, especially with like Google Docs and different things. We could link them to Google Docs with different resources and different ways for them to engage with those resources and those documents. We were also able to kind of partner that with our social media. So any announcements we sent out through Cobra announcements, we were able to also send those out through social media to reinforce whatever we were wanting to do. We have a pretty decent social media interaction rate, especially with our Instagram page. So that was very, very useful, especially in terms of getting a lot of that information out to students that usually ignore their emails, but don't ignore social media. So that was very useful. Virtual instruction, again, we just kind of utilized, really doubled down on a lot of the normal stuff, library guides, video tutorials. YouTube playlist is something that I started kind of doubling down on a little more this time than usual. It was really nice collaborating with a lot of faculty when we were doing different curated videos and instruction materials for their students. They really wanted to kind of focus in on the playlists to really allow them to give a really good set of video tutorials kind of in lines. We were able to really kind of order those out by, you know, their instruction needs, by whatever they were focusing on per week. So we were to collaborate in that way. Edpuzzle is a really great engagement tool to add to videos to make it so students are actually not only watching the videos, but also having to engage with the videos as they're watching them. So it's kind of a good way of making sure that they're actually viewing things, they're actually going through the entire process of the instruction and getting what they need out of it. And then, as I mentioned before, the embedded librarianship, we were able to kind of start getting that underway and pushed, and it's really taken flight, I think, more so than I even thought it would, even after we've opened back up. So it's really good to see. I've been making a ton of videos this semester, which is fantastic, but it's been a lot of work, and my voice has not been happy. But it's great though. And then virtual reference, we switched a lot to Google Meet, Zoom meetings for reference. We'll do a lot of one-on-ones with students and faculty that way. Our library help live chat, reference emails, curated video reference tutorials. I'll always curate videos. I'll do very small videos to lengthy videos for students if they need it, depending on what they need, as well as faculty members and staff. And then also the physical book request pickup service that we have. So that way students can just request books, get into them on the curbside if they don't want to come in, and kind of help, you know, limit whatever we have going on inside the library right now. So that's basically it. I just kind of wanted to just talk about some of the things we've been doing, some of the tools we've been utilizing, resources we've been utilizing, in case maybe you haven't messed with any of these things yet. Maybe, you know, might want to check out some of those. It might be useful for you. On the poster itself, I do have a QR code down at the bottom. You can take a picture of that, and what it'll do is it'll take you to a Google folder, and it will give you copies of this poster, and it'll also give you a Google Doc that has a lot of links to a lot of the resources that I've talked about here, with little blurbs in terms of how I've specifically utilized them. You can see a picture of me if you want to, and then also a little bio as well for me. So yeah, so thank you. That's it, and I will go ahead and stop the share. And we'll start a video. So you don't even have to go to the thing to see how I look. You can just look at me right here.
Hi, Jonathan. This is Sarah from USC Upstate. So you mentioned that you have a lot of engagement on your social media, and I do our social media, and I would say we have pretty low engagement. So what are you doing for that engagement? And then also, what have you done with COVID? Like, what have you changed with your social media strategy?
I think it was definitely more planning involved. Before, oh, it's one of those things where it's like I set aside a lot of time very early in the morning when I come in to kind of plan out my day. I usually don't do a lot of really advanced planning. Now, again, this is a very small campus and it's a very small community, so I don't really have to do too much planning for really large audiences. So in terms of changing in strategy when I was off campus, I think I had to plan a little bit more, mostly just to kind of keep myself going and engaged in what I needed to do and what I needed to put out. And in terms of getting the higher engagement, I don't know. When I first started, it was very, very low. It's taken quite a few years, and it's really just maintaining consistent scheduling, but also really finding the voice of the community and the way that the library social media can engage in that voice. And it may even have to be a little bit different. And again, I've had a lot more independence in terms of curating content and being able to kind of create a very, very unique voice for the library. And I do have a link to our social media um, in the links for the resources. So if you want to go in there and just kind of see kind of what we're doing and kind of how we're getting that information out. But I do a lot of on-campus engagement too. I'm always kind of out at all the different events. I'm always trying to engage in things. I collaborate a lot with student groups to create events that the library can kind of engage in, because I've noticed, at least on our campus, the library specific programming and engagements are usually pretty low, but as soon as I started collaborating with a lot more student groups, not only did I see an increase in the social media engagement, I just saw an increase in the event engagement, program engagement as well. But those are a few different ways that I've kind of, I think, increased engagement overall, not only with our events, but also with social media.
Awesome, thank you. I will definitely check out your social media. Thanks for that.
Excellent, thank you. And I'm always happy to talk about social media stuff. So if you ever want to email me as well and just have conversations that way at any time, feel free to.
Hi, this is Amanda McLeod from Winthrop. You mentioned that you were able to, with everything going on with COVID and the shift to remote, to kind of get off the ground your embedded librarianship program. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that looks like and what sort of, is it an overwhelming amount that y'all are having to do for classes, sort of what that looks like for y'all?
Sure. Yeah, it's not too overwhelming. I mean, the most overwhelming part really is getting the videos going, because we didn't have this program and we really weren't able to get as much of this program going beforehand to begin with. So that was probably the most overwhelming part, because I mean, there were days I was doing 10 to 12 videos a day. Kind of getting a lot of that stuff together, especially when we were collaborating with other faculty that really wanted to have a strong like playlist, like the YouTube playlist thing that I was talking about. So they were really wanting to have a lot of different information. And in some of those cases, I was able to make very generic type of tutorials or instruction videos. And then I was able to kind of be able to utilize those in multiple courses. But sometimes they wanted it to be very, very specific. And especially with the governor's school program and also with the Hartsville High program, those had to be very specific. And slightly different than the type of instruction I was giving to a lot of the faculty here. And so new videos had to be made there, new playlists had to be made there. That's really the most overwhelming part. Aside from that, though, it hasn't been too overwhelming. And really what it looks like is mostly it kind of looks like we're just getting a lot of those videos, a lot of those library guides, a lot of those video tutorial library guides. We're curating some of those. And then also the YouTube playlists, we're getting those to the instructors. They're getting those into Blackboard and other ways so that students can actually see them and engage with them. And then outside of that, it's just, hoping that the students really reach out and engage with us a little more. And we've noticed that, I think, a little bit more now. And actually, it's interesting because they have a lot of anxiety in terms of coming to us physically. And we're actually seeing them being more engaged right now in terms of setting up Google Meets, Zoom Meets, things like that for reference help. Our library chat still isn't super high use right now, but we are getting more reference inquiries right now, which is really nice.
And I'm sorry, everyone, but we're at time. And I do have everyone's contact information on the poster sessions section of the website. So if you have additional questions, please feel free to reach out. Our next poster presenters are Eric Resniss and Michelle Lewis from Coastal Carolina University.
All right, good morning, everyone. Okay. Good morning. I am Eric Resniss. I'm the head of instruction services at Coastal, and with me is Michelle Lewis, the manager of access services at Coastal. And we're going to be talking about the space considerations that we made in preparing for fall semester.
Good morning, everyone. This is Michelle. As an active member of our campus's emergency operation team, we were fortunate in that we were able to participate in the initial discussions and planning on how the campus would reopen for fall. Although we had our plan in place, we also knew it was very important that we remain flexible so we could adjust to changes that might and did occur, such as delayed start and online classes. Some of the things we did to prepare the physical space in the library was to remove excess seating and seating that wasn't conducive to social distancing, like the soft seating and clustered seating. We activated our card entry to control who and how many folks came in the library. We installed plexiglass barriers at our service desks and encouraged use of our online chat service. We also kept our study rooms open, but we reduced the maximum number of our students who could occupy the room. We initiated a mask up reminder program so that staff and student assistants would use our hourly Zoom account to remind students to wear or pull up their face masks. We also reduced crossing traffic through our library doors and stairways. We only allow entering in our normal doors that open, and all of exiting goes out the emergency exit doors. So we open the emergency exit doors and stairwells to reduce and to make a better traffic pattern in response to needing everybody to socially distance. As I said, we were able to do this. We actually had our plan in place before facilities came over to tell us what we needed to do. So they kind of adopted our plan, which was very fortunate for us because they don't know exactly, I mean, people who don't work in the library don't really know how we function. So that worked really well for us. Okay, Eric.
All right. So how we required students reserve their location before they arrived at the library, but how do we do that? And so we used LibCal seats for that. We had used LibCal last academic year strictly for study rooms, and we decided to add on the module so that students could reserve study rooms and seats as well. We zoned the building. So our library is two separate buildings connected together. There's a Kimball side and the Bryan side. And so we zoned by building and by floor. And then we categorized the type of seats by either a study room, a seat with a PC, a seat with a Mac, or an open seat with no computer. So when students went to the reservation site, they could immediately decide where they wanted to sit and what type of seat they wanted and figure out what was available. Students are able to reserve seats up to 6 hours per day. And you'll see in the bottom right, when students arrive at the seat, there is a number. So the number denotes the library that it's in and the floor that it's in as well. And so students can scan that QR code at that seat to check in and then also check out as well. So we piloted this process in the first 2 weeks of the semester when classes were entirely online, and then we required reservations after Labor Day when the university moved to a mix of in-person and online instruction. How do we market this? Part of it was increased signage that mentioned, as Michelle mentioned before, mask requirements, the directional signing. We had a QR code at the entrance so that students who didn't reserve the seat beforehand could do it immediately upon entering. And you'll see there were also library staff at the entrance to help them through that process if they hadn't reserved the seat before or need to reserve it once they got there. And then we also shared the new procedures with the campus community through our channels. So we shared on social media, liaison librarian shared it with faculty in their departments. And then we also shared it via our personal librarian program, which is something that we started this year, and that is aimed towards first-year students. And so that was part of the key information that we shared with them on getting to know the library and the services that we offer. And so I think with that, let me stop sharing. And are there any questions? All right, we have a question from John about instruction and reference. And so with instruction, we are offering in person on a very limited basis, but we are encouraging faculty to do online or asynchronous videos, curated videos whenever possible. I think this semester we have had a total of 4 instruction sessions in person. So most faculty are choosing the online, and how that works is our instruction room is in a closed area of the building right now. So pretty much we have to have people available to escort them up and escort them out during the instruction session. And reference, chat reference is available in person and online. I think we're finding that most people are using chat and consultations or appointments. Appointments for us are up over 200% this semester. So that's, even though in-person service is available, we're seeing that most people are using the online services.
We also do not have somebody sitting at the reference chair, which we have like combination help desks, and nobody is sitting there because we socially distance the student assistants or the staff that are at the desk. So and Access Services provides a baseline reference assistant, but we really did push people and continue to push people to chat because you can't get it so close, and you don't want to get it so close. So so there's not a question. I want to say something really quick. Something that was really helpful for us, as I said at the beginning, is that we are on the coast. So we have shut down our library before and had to manage reopening after hurricane when we were closed for 3 weeks. So it wasn't something we didn't know how to do. We just didn't know how to do it in a pandemic situation. If you can get your library into some sort of committee that is part of the way you respond, like that they look at to begin with when an emergency happens, that's a really positive thing, to be in on the first floor of decisions as they're being made.
Any other questions for us?
This doesn't necessarily have to do with your poster, so I'm very sorry. But I feel so bad for you guys with the furloughs. How are you two doing? Like, how are your library staff doing with that?
Well,
and is there a way that SCLA can help?
we did not, of course, not all of Access Services, and I don't think any, well, yeah, not all of Access Services had to furlough. It was based on your base salary. But in Access Services, we lost 4 positions and we were already down 3. So we no longer maintain 24 hours, which I can't imagine why we would during this time anyway. But so reducing the hours helped a lot. And since we had 4 people rift, the furloughs just didn't seem so bad. So
Okay.
And I think, I mean, for my department, we ended up losing 2 people of the department of 7. So, I mean, so that, different reasons, they weren't necessarily rift, but retirements, etc. And so, I mean, I think the nice thing about the nice thing about a furlough, but we're given some flexibility in when we can take those days. So we've been able to plan it out well and take days when we're not severely impacting the department or working with students and faculty.
And if we have a second, I'll just say that our staff senate and faculty senate, I'm assuming, also got involved in, they announced these, that furloughs were going to happen in June, that they would happen as of the 1st of July, which is the start of the fiscal year. And the university allowed some folks to take all of their furlough time, which was, is it 4 weeks? 4 weeks during July, when there was still federal unemployment available. So they took all their time at one time and were able to draw unemployment to help supplement the furlough. Not everybody got to do that because there was a lot of preparation going on in July too, but it helped a lot of people on campus. So that was a good thing.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know that part, because when I read that over the summer, I felt so bad.
Thanks. We did too, but you got to make the best of it. It's an unprecedented time. So,
yeah. Well, thank you both so much for your presentation. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next presenter.
thanks.
And again, if you guys have any questions, their contact information is on the website. Our next presenters are Janessa McElfresh, Maggie Albro, and Jennifer Groff, all from Clemson University.
Okay, I have shared my screen, I believe. Yell at me if I haven't. And I'm going to take you on a bit of a tour of our poster on a team-based liaison approach to science coverage. My name is Janessa McElfresh. I'm the health sciences librarian at Clemson, and I'm joined by my colleagues Maggie Albro and Jennifer Groff. Today, we're going to talk about some of the challenges we face in our liaison roles, how we've kind of shifted to accommodate those challenges, and what we can do in the future to keep growing. Now, we're going to zoom in a little bit. So one of the challenges that we face is just basic staffing and coverage. As you can see on this timeline, we've had a lot of turnover in the science liaison roles at Clemson. I started in 2017, and since then, every single role has had turnover due to retirements, people leaving, internal shifts in position, and this has led to some pretty substantial gaps. As of right now, we're still down one person, and this challenge is complicated because some of the institutional priorities of the university really revolve around growing and growth in the sciences. The Clemson Forward Plan governs the direction of the university. And so in the research and academic core goals, the team specifically supports 5 of the 6 innovation clusters. This means that research in the sciences is accelerating, more grant applications are being submitted, and enrollment and hiring in each of these programs continues to grow. How that shakes down is in our chart of the liaison area breakdown. This is data from 2019. As you can see, undergraduate enrollment in the subject areas that we work in accounts for about 11,000 individuals. We have over 2,500 graduate students, over 800 faculty, and all of this amounts to about 14,600 individuals. That equates to about half of the university that the 3 of us are trying to provide really comprehensive library services to. One way that we try to accommodate for this is by really shaking up our team-based approach. Traditional liaison areas are defined by an expert level competency in a field or discipline. However, because we're dealing with growing programs and a staffing shortage, we've had to take a step back and analyze what other competencies that we have that can allow us to work together more efficiently. This started back in 2017. All of the liaisons at Clemson were asked to contribute to a spreadsheet of kind of the other things that we know how to do that we use in our job, including different types of research methodologies or metrics or ways of analyzing data. And this approach has allowed the science team to pinpoint different areas that we have expertise in that we can help each other with that goes outside of the boundaries of subject area. This includes patents and trademarks, systematic reviews, other research methodologies, different techniques in outreach and marketing, and the ways that we combine our budgets for collaborative purchasing, specifically for large ebook collections. In addition to these alternative competencies, we're successful in working together to provide this coverage due to a really high level of communication. All of our offices, when we're in person, are in a row, and we have a listserv that we use both to advertise to students in areas that does not have a specific liaison assigned at this time, but also to communicate internally for requests for assistance, if someone needs just to ask a basic question, if someone's going to be out of the office. It allows us all to stay on the same page at the same time really easily. We think we've been pretty successful in kind of keeping the boat afloat during these times. From January until October 8th of this year, we've taught 83 classes, sometimes collaboratively, 24 different types of workshops, often collaboratively. We've had about 950 reference interactions, of which 268 have been at the top of that read chart in higher level of intensity. Between the three of us, we maintain 74 different LibGuides. This is actually a decrease from a few years ago. We've streamlined some of those. And we had 68,240 views so far this year. And we work together to maintain a monographs budget of about $275,000. So there's a lot of pressure on us. We're missing some people. We have a lot of students, but we find that working together in this way allows us to still be effective in providing a high level of service to our different areas. That being said, there are still quite a few ways we could keep growing, keep getting better. Hopefully we won't be short-staffed for forever. But until then, we can work more on cross-training in the scaffolded instruction outcomes per discipline area. We're pretty good at jumping in when someone's out of the office and teaching a class, but we can always get better. We'd love to do a collection analysis of our physical and electronic collections to determine areas where there are gaps, specifically for interdisciplinary areas. Outreach is a challenge, both in connecting with people and moderating what we get back. Because we only have a few of us, if we are swamped, we can't provide the same level of service. So coming up with a more structured outreach plan could be really helpful, in addition to just the basic distribution of instruction and reference. Our contact information is on this poster, including our listserv. And now I will open it up for any questions. And Maggie has shared a link to our poster in the chat as well. I know I'm a fast talker. If you want to see any of the stats or get in touch with us. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next presenter is John Siegel from USC Upstate.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Let me just pull up my poster. Hang on just a second. All right. So my name is John Siegel, and I am from lovely USC Upstate in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I'm officially the coordinator of information literacy, but I have other hats. I'm the psychology librarian. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story of the transition from in-person to online instruction for a research methods class. So most of you should be aware, but just as a quick refresher, Upstate's a regional comprehensive university, about 6,000, mainly undergrads. Psych is one of the largest majors. And you can see lovely students there in their masks on our beautiful campus. So in terms of the course, so research methods is an upper level course. It's required. It's really their students' first foray into research. Unlike other places I've worked, research methods, the sections are really small, usually about 10 to 12 students. It is research heavy with the group and individual research projects. I am fortunate enough to have built relationships with the psychology faculty. Liaisons before me had done a really good job with partnerships. So all of the sections see me in research methods. And typically that was done in person. So you can see here, and let me give you a little background. They come to me usually the first few weeks of the semester. So they don't have topics picked out, but they're trying to get them exposed to the research early. So for me, the best way to get them involved is through hands-on. So this is in person, 75 minutes. So I try to minimize lecturing in person. You can see I have 2 group exercises. It's really, really important for the students to understand empirical versus review articles or primary versus secondary literature. Then I throw them into PsycInfo and groups. I give them a prompt or a research question and then have them go at it, and then we debrief, and then they can see things they might have done differently next time, and that seems to resonate, and faculty seem to like that. So COVID world, online synchronous. And at the top of this, you can see this is after several iterations. So you will note one of the first things I had to do was get rid of the first group exercise. There wasn't enough time. And I'll tell you a little more about what I encountered. I had to then rely on lecturing more. So I had to incorporate more things about empirical in my lecture. I had to increase the amount of time for the group exercise. And I included some more time for introductory material and to reinforce how to get help. Because some students were really, really shaky. So here are some lessons I learned, and some of these are successes and some of them are challenges. Technology blips. If it's technology, just predict there's going to be issues. When students come into the class, I have a PowerPoint slide presentation going that is introductory slides about Ask a Librarian, about me. It's got a dial-in phone number and PIN in case they get disconnected. Ask a Librarian, again, making an appointment with me. I also have music going. Now, I know their musical taste may be different than mine, but if it's any indication, it sets the tone. I had a student, I was playing Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody, and the student didn't realize they were on mute or were not on mute, and they were singing. So that was positive. Students aren't as tech savvy as you think. We use Blackboard Collaborate. They aren't necessarily familiar with the tools like the whiteboard. We were waiting for them to respond. You have to be patient. I demonstrated it twice. And one student said, well, you know, we're still getting to learn this technology. So it's like anything else, they're not necessarily familiar. Getting them to participate can be a challenge. You do have to allow for silence and encourage them. I think anonymity has helped. The whiteboard feature, and if you use polls, I've used Google polls to do anonymous surveys. That tends to work better. Group work is great, but it takes extra time. The students, when you get them in the group, I think it's the setting. It's not as easy to walk around. So you have to pop in and out of the breakout rooms. So it's great if you can do it, but you have to allow a lot more extra time. I had to revise this activity. I did the psych info searching 4 or 5 times. And I finally got it to work, and I'm thinking I may have to revise it again. So trial and error, you have to be patient. As frustrated as I got at times, honesty, the students appreciate it, as well as a sense of humor. Collect as much feedback as you can and celebrate your successes. If you tell the students you're learning with them, it does provide reassurance. So overall, I will say I've seen an uptick in the number of research appointments. This semester, I had students were approaching me, but faculty were also sending a number of students to me, more so than I've seen in the past. So it's been positive. So I know I'm running short on time, so this is my contact information. And with that, we've got time. I'll take questions. Otherwise, you can just reach out to me. Okay, so I see comments. Students aren't tech savvy. Yes. Ditto the music. They do tend to enjoy it. So sometimes other librarians are wondering, why are you doing this? But it does, I think it sets the mood. All right, well, you all can reach out. I'm going to turn it back over. I'm co-presenting on the next poster, so I will turn it over back to Megan, and then my presenter, Sarah, co-presenter.
Thank you, John. Yes, our next presenters are Sarah DeSantis and John Siegel from USC Upstate.
All right, hey everyone, this is Sarah. John and I will be doing this next poster. Let me share my screen. Okay. So, all right, so John and I developed a project for our University 101, which is a first year experience project. So it's called Write It Down, involving first year experience students in a COVID community archiving project. So over the summer, our archivist and I, we planned this project called Write It Down, and everyone is welcome to participate in it. I do have a link here, and the link will be available later. But we wanted to get a lot of our students to be involved in this activity. So I came up with the idea that we should, let me make sure. Okay, I wanted to make sure that you all could see my screen. That we wanted to get, especially the freshmen, involved because they have such a unique experience right now. They graduated high school during a pandemic, and they started college during a pandemic. So I know that if I was in their shoes, I would have a lot of emotions and feelings about this right now, because there's so many important things that happen when you graduate and so many important things that happen when you start college. So a little bit of a background on the project. At Upstate, every student is required to take this course, and it introduces them to the university. And librarians, we visit each section of University 101, and we usually introduce ourselves, the library resources and services, and we try to do it in a fun way so the students aren't like bored and like, oh, what is this library stuff? We sort of make it really fun, and they ask us questions and get to know us. And then at the end of this, students are required to complete a library activity. So this is a perfect time to get students to do this archiving project. So John, I don't know if you want to add anything before I show some examples.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this is a really general introduction to the library, because they get this again. We want them to be comfortable asking us questions. And the library activity, we're really fortunate to work with a great student success office director. So they do learn about the library. They take a library quiz, but we couldn't really get them physically into the library. We gave them a separate option for that. So it is an opportunity for them to learn about the importance of archives in this case. So it is library related. So thanks, Sarah. I'll turn it back over.
Okay, so I wanted to show you all some of the examples or some of the submissions that students gave us. They did give us permission. They shared it on LibWizard. So we see the first one is a drawing, or both of these are drawings. So you see a student is sitting in summer class and she's saying her beach vacation was canceled. She didn't get to go to Disney World for her senior trip. I didn't get to go to camp and I'm taking an online class, so she's not happy about that. And then she missed her senior prom. So here are some things that she missed out because of this, and her emotions, and we know this has taken a really mental toll on a lot of people. And here's another piece, a girl wearing a mask, and it looks like she's behind bars. So these are two very emotional pieces. So obviously these students are having a hard time with this, and I think everyone is. It's very hard, but I can't imagine like this one student saying, she missed her prom, her senior trip, her beach trip, and she's not going to camp and she has to do online school. That's a bummer. I totally understand that. So this next one, okay, that is not showing up. So what's in this blank space is what I typed out here. It was handwritten, but I typed it out so it's easier to read. So the student says, COVID has been the worst thing to happen globally in a very long time. I think COVID has had many challenges. It took away family time. It took away time from seeing friends. Personally, COVID-19 took away time from seeing my grandparents. They were in good health, so I sacrificed my time sorry for that typo, from seeing them to keep them healthy. COVID-19 has took a toll on everyone mentally and physically, but I believe that eventually we will beat this and hopefully return back to normal. So a positive light towards the end. But I think the sacrifice portion, a lot of us can understand. So this is, I would say, almost like a poem from a student, Signs of the Time. I'll read this one. I won't read the last one because the last one's a little bit long, but I think this one's really powerful. So she sat there and waited for what felt like decades and eons. She sat until the leaves turned orange, until the leaves fell off the branches. She sat until they shriveled and turned brown. She sat until they froze over, until the ground became still and white. She sat until the leaves came back, until the flowers bloomed in the fields. She waited until the earth faded away, until the stars stopped shining. She sat until the sun burned out and the moon's craters crumbled. She sat patiently, quietly waiting for something, anything, the smallest signs. The inside became a place of isolation. The windows became bars and the loneliness became chains. They bound and strangled until there was no more air, until she became nothing, until she became nothingness with a void. So she cried out, questioning when a sign would come. And a voice asked her, "Do you not see how I changed the earth, how the leaves fell and came back? Do you not see how the sun never shined in the same valley, how the moon never shone on the same mountain? Do you not see how the earth healed?" I don't know about you, but that kind of gives me goosebumps at the end that the earth has healed. And I think it's encouraging that we will heal, we will get through this. So this is a student perspective on it. And I think this is really beautiful. And then this is the last one. I will let you guys read this on the website. But again, this has a positive note at the end. So we see that these are very emotional pieces and challenging for every student, but they do have that positive note at the end. And if you would like to submit your projects to the UC Upstate COVID Community Project, here is a link. It is open for everyone, anyone in the state. Your students can do it, you can do it. It's a great opportunity for us to share what we've been through. And John, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, I put in the chat box, it's an opportunity for students to reflect and process. I think they may not have done it before. And let me explain. The students, we asked them to upload their drawings or writings. We're not mandating it. We have it in the instructions. I can tell you not all of them do it. But the professors, they have to turn this into their professors. This is an opportunity for students to, if they're experiencing some of these things, if there's issues, and when I don't say issues, if there's flags with depression or something else, that students may not express it otherwise, or their signs may not be as visible, they can refer somebody to counseling services. So I think this is helpful all around. So with that, I'll leave it for questions. I don't know if there's much time, but you can reach out to either of us.
I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, so we're going to go ahead and go on to our next poster. Our presenters are Amanda McLeod, Deanne Brom, Emily Deinert, and Cody Walters, all from Winthrop University.
All right, so this is Amanda. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Let's see. Okay. So we are going to be talking today about using the LibApps LTI to integrate LibApps into Blackboard using the SpringShare Automagic tool. So we're talking about Blackboard because that is the course management system, learning management system that we use at Winthrop. This is not specific to Blackboard, so you can use it if you are, using a different platform. So Canvas, anything like that. So this really grew out of some work that I had done with the social work department. I'm the liaison to that area on campus. In 2018, Winthrop launched a 100% online Master of Social Work program. And so I worked with faculty in the social work department when courses were being developed to integrate library content into those classes. And one of the things that we ended up doing was actually providing a quick link within Blackboard directly to the social work research guide. And this was pretty successful. I pulled the statistics. So from 2017, 2018 academic year, that guide had about just over 1,000 total views. And by the 2019-2020 year, it was averaging about 5,500 views. And I did have at least one student in the one-on-one appointment say it was helpful to have that really quick access point to some targeted resources. And so what we really wanted to do was provide a quick tool that other faculty and other content areas could use to provide that link in their Blackboard courses. And so that's where the SpringShare LTI tool comes in. The Automagic tool particularly is fairly easy to use once you get it set up. We wanted to make as few clicks as possible because both for students and faculty, if you can minimize the effort, you get a little bit better engagement. So Cody is going to go ahead and talk through some of the process of actually getting the tool set up.
Okay, hello, thank you, Amanda. Cody Walters here. I just wanted to quickly go over this process because when I first heard about the LibApps LTI, I was a little confused about how it would all work, and so I thought just doing a quick overview would help people if they wanted to put this in their Blackboard or Canvas or whatever. So the first thing we had to do was we had to get information from our online learning department. So whoever Jane Eckert is over Blackboard. She's the LMS administrator. And so we had to get what's called a translation table and a list of all the 4-letter class codes, because those 4-letter codes would be how we would match guides to the information that the lib guides that we have. And so once we got that translation table that basically told the system this 4-letter code goes to this class in Blackboard. Once we put that in, I had to then go in and match codes with applicable guides. That process took a little bit of time because as you can see, we had about 123 courses that had applicable guides. So that process takes a little bit of time to do. But one of the things that came out of that was that we saw a gap in our library's offerings for certain courses. And we hadn't known that because we weren't, maybe we hadn't done as much outreach to those particular programs, but certain programs like chemistry and physics and big classes that we probably should have some information for, we did not have a guide for that we could connect to it. So that was really useful for us to know what we were missing. I also had some kind of, I wouldn't say basic, but some generic guides for research for more of our core classes like ACAD, writing, CRTW, which is a critical thinking class. So after doing all that work, we then have had the option of putting different things on what we call the landing page, and that's a page where if you have more than one guide for a class, or if you have no guide for a class, that's what they see when they use this tool. So we just had to make sure that we knew what we wanted to put on there. And as you'll see in the limitations part, that landing page is a little sparse. So Emily, do you want to talk about how this actually works?
Absolutely. Thank you, Cody. This is Emily Deinert, Reference Services Librarian. So I'm just going to walk you through very quickly, basically how you would actually add this content to a Blackboard course. So once we have all the metadata created, the professors really don't have to think about this much. So they can go to the content area of their course. You can see in our first picture, this tool is under Tools. And we actually have it labeled Dacus Library Resources. And when they click on that, they can create this link, which is our second picture. They can name it something else if they want. We have the generic name as Dacus Library Resources. And then that link takes you to the library guide that is applicable to the class that you're adding this resource to. So for instance, the human nutrition guide is one that is going to go in every nutrition class because we've mapped that in the metadata. As Cody was mentioning earlier, some issues that we discovered are obviously the fact that there are some classes, the core writing classes, for instance, where they're covering a lot of different things and we don't have necessarily like a subject. But we have created generic guides, what we call generic guides, like basic research and writing skills that we've connected to those classes. We think it's really beneficial for the professors, especially, and the students. It's really just very few clicks for the professors, and then for the students, it's one click because they'll just be able to go under that content and see our Dacus Library Resources link. But another issue, as Cody was mentioning, is if there are multiple guides that are relevant for a particular class, our landing page is not very appealing. We didn't include that on this guide specifically, but if you guys have questions and you'd like to see what that looks like, feel free to contact any of us and we can show you. Basically what happens is it's a blank white page with just lots of different links to all of the different library guides that are relevant. And so we've been working on that. It's a work in progress to make that landing page a bit more appealing for our students so it actually gets used. But in the meantime, we've been focusing on just making sure that each class has at least one library guide that's relevant. And I think that's about it for me. And Deanne, I believe, is around to kind of wrap it up and answer any questions, because she definitely was the one who got us connected to online learning to make sure that this tool could get used with Blackboard.
Hi. Yeah, so we talked a lot about the Auto Magic tool, but and the benefit of the Auto Magic tool is the professors really just have to add it in themselves. But we also set up the manual tool at the same time. So a professor could just go in and quickly add a link to the specific guide that they wanted to. And both of those are set up. Both of those, hopefully we can market and just say, we're here for you. You don't need to do more. And maybe we can get a little bit more communication from all of the classes that we teach. But I will open it up for questions now.
I will go ahead and stop sharing as well. I'm going to start my video just in case as well.
I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, but I do want to give Deanne some time to present her poster as well. So is it okay if we go ahead and let her present the last poster? Okay, thank you.
Okay, can you make me host so I can share my screen?
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry.
Okay. All right, so I'll make this quick. So I am Deanne Brame. I'm the Digital Services Systems Librarian at Winthrop. And today I'm just going to talk a little bit about building networks with campus IT. Winthrop's library, we don't have a dedicated large IT department, which means that us collaborating with our campus IT is really, really important. So over the last few years, I've kind of worked trying to develop a better relationship with campus IT. And this is kind of how we went about it. So first, you should send out a ping. So are they there? Are they willing to collaborate? So in 2017, DACUS and IT were kind of in a transition phase and doing some restructuring. So we were hiring a library technology assistant, and they had just hired a new director of technology services. She got there maybe 1 month before we started the hiring process for the TA. So we invited her to be on that search committee, and that kind of opened the door to say, like, we're in this from the beginning. We would like you guys to be involved in the process of who we hire. And that position works closely with IT. So we definitely wanted their expertise in choosing that person. So second, we established the infrastructure. So get dirty. We were really hands-on. It was really important to show IT that we knew what we were doing and you could trust us with, solving problems and everything. So I myself and the LTA actually shadowed campus IT for 1 to 2 weeks, and we rotated between different departments, seeing how they functioned, kind of their whole workflow and the processes that they went through. And that kind of really helped us to understand what they do and how we fit into their entire their infrastructure and how their response times would be. And then this is a continuous process. So once we did the larger shadowing, it's basically we're learning every time they're over in the library or if we have a question. And then build a network. So once that foundation was set, then we could start identifying projects that would be useful and mutually beneficial. So in 2018, I believe, we had 2 computer labs that had old computers, and it just made more sense for them to be upgraded and to be on the campus network. That would save us some time in the library on troubleshooting those computers and IT, making the network more secure. So we upgraded those. We got library IT added to the campus IT ticket routing system so that when tickets came in that were library specific, so things like, oh, the library databases aren't working, or there's a problem with the computer, we in the library could troubleshoot first before it went to larger IT. That way we could then have faster response times. We also piloted an IT student lab operator program in the library, I guess at the beginning of this year and the end of last semester. And just to have that student presence again in the library, they were frontline eyes so that when we're on extended hours, technology problems could still be handled and reported correctly. And then run your server. So make sure you're communicating. Communication is the #1 thing. Developing those types of relationships is always key. So from this communication process, we've noticed faster response times, more willingness to collaborate, and more of an awareness of how the library functions on campus. They're also more willing to share their workload. So if something needs to be done, they can say, here, this is how you do it. We'll know you'll get it done. And then scheduled maintenance. Processes always need to be reevaluated. Technology is changing, work systems and ecosystems are changing. So always remember to take a step back. New coworkers may mean starting the process over again. This is kind of where we're at now. We've had a lot of people leaving to new jobs. So I'm kind of starting this entire thing from the beginning. And sometimes a collaboration may be unsuccessful because of timing. So that doesn't mean you should table it forever. You should go back to it. And then don't be afraid to revisit any part of the process. So that was my quick spiel about kind of building a network, and hopefully one that will last and can be sustainable with your campus IT. So I'm going to stop sharing, and if there are any questions, I'll take them. If not, feel free to email me. Okay, well, thank you.